The Crown Prince of Kuwait is scheduled to visit China later this month. Melchezedek Cadiz reports.
Assalamualaikum. His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Mishal Al Hamad Al Jaber Al Sabah will visit China for the first time and will lead a high-level delegation that includes Foreign Minister, Oil Minister, and Finance Minister. The scheduled trip will take place nearly a year after Chinese President Xi Jinping met with the Crown Prince in the Saudi capital of Riyadh. At that time, Xi praised Kuwait for adhering to the One China principle and supporting Beijing's core interests. The Chinese president also vowed support in safeguarding Kuwait's national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Meanwhile, Sheikh Mishal's upcoming visit to China will include signing vital agreements between the two countries in different fields. China has become Kuwait's largest source of imports and its biggest trading partner, while Kuwait has been China's seventh largest source of crude oil imports. Barakallah fikum jami'an, kan hada Melchezedek Cadiz akhbar SMNI, Kuwait.
The United Arab Emirates expressed willingness to invest millions of dollars to buy carbon credits from Africa amid a global push to reduce carbon emissions. Jonathan Acobo has the details.
Marhaba! The Africa Climate Summit ended in Kenya with leaders urging the global community to urgently reduce greenhouse gas emissions and keep financial promises to fight climate change. An Emirati coalition also promised to buy carbon credits generated in Africa. As Kenya struggles to attract climate finance, the UAE pledged to buy $450 million in carbon credits from the African Carbon Markets Initiative, or ACMI, by 2030. The UAE Carbon Alliance, a grouping of several UAE companies dedicated to advancing the development of a carbon market ecosystem, made the pledge at the opening of the Climate Summit in the East African country this week. Launched in Egypt last year, the African Carbon Markets Initiative aims to boost Africa's carbon credit production from 60 million in 2020 to 300 million by 2030 and 1.5 billion by 2050. Carbon markets are trading systems in which carbon credits are sold and bought. It is a way for companies or individuals to compensate for their greenhouse gas emissions through projects that reduce emissions such as reforestation and shifting to renewable or cleaner energy sources. Each carbon credit is equivalent to preventing the release of 1 ton of carbon dioxide. The Climate Summit took place in the Kenyan capital of Nairobi from September 4 to 8, attended by more than 30 heads of state and nearly 25,000 delegates. The ambitious pledge was part of the UAE's strategic initiative to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Tajubulak Almazimin Tatiti at Karum Dubai kana Jonathan Cabos My News natida Emirates.
The United States is conducting what it calls a precautionary repositioning of more than 1,000 military personnel stationed in Niger, with most officers primarily based on military installations. Vergil Parba files this report.
The United States is moving some of its troops from Niger's capital Niamey to Agadez area. This comes in the wake of July coup in Niger, where military officers seized government control. Around 1,100 U.S. military personnel are stationed in Niger, primarily on bases, with joint training activities scaled back since the coup. Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh clarified that there is no immediate threat to U.S. personnel in Niger, and this move is a precaution.
So what we're doing right now is the department is repositioning some of our personnel and some of our assets from Airbase 101 in Niamey to Airbase 201 in Agadez. But it's simply precautionary. Our force posture hasn't changed in Niger. Our position remains the same, that we hope that the situation on the ground gets resolved diplomatically, but would just reemphasize that there's no immediate threat to U.S. personnel or violence on the ground.
A small group of personnel will remain at Air Base 101 in Niamey. The Pentagon Press Secretary also noted that some non-essential personnel and contractors have already left the country. Niger has been a key base for the region's French and American anti-militant operations. The U.S. action is unrelated to ongoing talks between Niger and France about withdrawing certain French military elements. French forces have faced calls from Niger to reduce their presence. In July, Niger's President Mohamed Bazoum was overthrown by his own guards and detained by coup leaders, sparking condemnation from the West African bloc ECOWAS, which threatened the use of force to restore civilian rule. Similar military takeovers have occurred in neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali, and the current leaders of these two countries are allies of Niger's junta military. In fact, last August, the Niger military authorized the armies of Burkina Faso and Mali to intervene in the event of aggression. Reporting this has been Virgil Parba, SMNI News.
A Ukrainian oligarch who is also the former sponsor of President Zelensky faces charges of embezzling millions by allegedly unlawfully diverting funds from a bank to strengthen his control over the institution. Carlo De La Peña has the details.
Ukrainian oligarch Ihor Kolomoisky, known for supporting President Volodymyr Zelensky, is facing serious legal charges after his country's National Anti-Corruption Bureau accused him of embezzling $250 million from Private Bank, a bank he used to control. According to the Anti-Corruption Bureau, Kolomoisky and 5 others allegedly orchestrated an illegal scheme in 2015 to take $250 million from Private Bank. They purportedly pretended to buy the bank's bonds at inflated prices, funneling the money to a company controlled by Kolomoisky. These funds were then used to finance one of Kolomoisky's offshore companies and increase his stake in Private Bank. Ukraine's Anti-Corruption Bureau has not revealed the identities of other suspects involved. This comes after recent allegations that Kolomoisky laundered and moved over $13 million abroad, using his influence over banking institutions he controlled, according to Ukrainian Security Services or SBU. These actions involved the illegal acquisition of assets obtained through criminal means. Kolomoisky was arrested last Saturday, September 2, and a court has ordered him to be detained for 2 months, with a bail set at $13.8 million. His legal team plans to challenge the arrest, and a hearing is scheduled for later this month. Ihor Kolomoisky rose to prominence in Ukraine in 2014 when he served as the governor of the southeastern Dnipropetrovsk region following the Maidan coup. However, his tenure was short-lived, as he was dismissed a year later due to conflicts with then-Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. In 2016, Ukrainian authorities nationalized Private Bank, owned by Kolomoisky, citing extensive fraud and a threat to the country's financial system. Kolomoisky's influence on President Volodymyr Zelensky's rise to power has been scrutinized. Zelensky, a former comedian, had a television show called Servant of the People, hosted by a media holding controlled by Kolomoisky. While the oligarch publicly supported Zelensky's presidential campaign, he had denied any significant personal ties to the current Ukrainian president. However, Kyiv Independent article reported that it was Zelensky's party that started passing laws banning the return of seized banks to their ex-owners and forcing oligarchs to register in a state database. After the start of Russia's so-called special military operation, Kolomoisky reportedly saw his stake in oil refining companies, Ukhrnafta and Ukhrnafta, nationalized by the state, while his passport was allegedly stripped with Zelensky's undisclosed decree. Reporting, this has been Carlo De La Peña, SMNI News.